Hello, friends. So, I have a thing on my mind after a conversation with Michael that I just had on our way back from dinner about, well, if we really need to sum it up, which we probably should, all about the idea of consent and how far that concept stretches. Because I think one thing that tripped me up when I was first learning about the realities of being a feminist who is consistently a feminist is that the idea of consent is often given limits just because we feel bad for one of the parties involved. And I think the problem with that is that it leads to this situation, inevitably it leads to this situation where the person who is being told no in any form, in any situation, if they are given part of the sympathy as opposed to understanding that they are in the wrong if they tried to push forward at all, then you get into this situation where you are no longer actually supporting the person who said no. So an example would be somebody is fine with a situation for a while and then either comes to their senses or is just uncomfortable, depending on how bad the situation is, and makes it known that they're no longer comfortable. And then the person who's being told that becomes upset and tries to say that the other person who said no was either playing with their emotions or being inconsistent or manipulative, when the reality is that by saying that, you have just become manipulative. And there was a time in my early journey towards becoming an actual feminist, not just somebody that claimed that they wanted women to have equal rights but didn't do anything about being consistent with that, is that I used to say that because, I want everybody to have an equal shot at being heard and loved, that meant that if a situation like that happens where somebody takes away the consent after having given it, then that person isn't being totally fair, and while they have every right to take it away, they still share the blame for the hurt caused. And I think the issue, I know the issue, is that as soon as you make it about the hurt being caused and stop making it about everyone being safe and feeling like they have a way out of something, is that you suddenly create this atmosphere where it is okay for a person who is told no to blame the person saying no just because they get a chance at saying something too. And it's not that I'm ashamed of my previous stance, because it was a part of my journey towards understanding what consent actually means. But I will say that because of this time in my life where I was not fully on board with either party saying no after a certain period of time, is that you take away the voice and the power of the person who is going to already be invalidated just by saying no, if that makes sense. And I'm rambling a little bit because forming sentences like these, sometimes I get lost in what the first part of the sentence was. So if any of these sentences don't make sense, that's why. Because I just get so deep into it that I forget where I started. But I think you get the picture. I think you know where I'm coming from on this. The point is that I get concerned when we claim to be feminist, we claim to be always on the side of the victim, and then we place these conditions in order to make the other person feel better. Because you know me, if you've watched any of these videos, or if you know me in person, you know I have a seemingly never-ending supply of empathy for people, even when they suck. And sometimes that's a problem. Sometimes that makes it a lot harder for me to navigate a situation without being too nice. But that does not mean that I give passes to people who take advantage of this idea that a person gave them consent. Because ultimately, my empathy meter does run out when I hit that moment in a situation. That's one of the few times my empathy meter runs out. Because as much of an empathetic person I am also a very passionate person for justice and making things right. You can't really have either of those things if you are allowing an aggressor, whether they're an actual aggressor or just somebody who is taking part in a situation as an aggressor. You know where I'm getting at. And I have the hiccups, so I'm done. But that's what's on my mind. I feel like it's a relevant thing to talk about, piggybacking chats about sexuality, because consent and sexuality go hand in hand, regardless of what the sexuality is. Anywho, there's that. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Really, though. I'm gonna walk across the street to the store and buy some chips because tomorrow we have family stuff. I should probably play my part in all of that.